Let's get weird into it. Number 10. Industrial wood pulp. You're trying to be healthy. You sprinkle some pre-shredded Parmesan cheese on your whole wheat pasta, feeling like a domestic god of nutrition. Or maybe you grab a high-fiber breakfast bar on your way out the door. You're making good choices. What you probably don't realize is that you're supplementing your diet with a healthy dose of sawdust. Yes, wood. The same stuff beavers build dams with and your weird uncle uses to make unsettling lawn gnomes. The food industry has a much more polite name for it: cellulose. It's a plant fiber, and technically wood is a plant, so they're not lying. They're just conveniently leaving out the part where the fiber in your low-fat ice cream might have been a 2x4 in a previous life. Here's the deal. Cellulose is an amazing filler. It's cheap, it adds bulk without adding calories, and it prevents things like shredded cheese from clumping into a single, terrifying cheese brick. It makes your ice cream creamier and your bread feel softer. Food scientists extract the pulp, bleach it, and grind it into a fine powder that can be mixed into basically anything. Your body can't digest it, so it just passes through, like a ghost haunting your digestive tract. So next time you're reading the ingredients on your high-fiber snack and see cellulose gum or powdered cellulose, just smile. You're not just eating a granola bar. You're eating a tiny, tiny portion of a bookshelf. It's the ultimate way to get in touch with nature, assuming your idea of nature is a Home Depot. Number 9. Sunscreen paint. Ever look at a cup of non-fat yogurt or a dollop of ranch dressing and think, wow, that is an unnaturally perfect shade of white. It's so pure, so pristine. It looks like it was mixed in a lab by angels who only wear white coats. Well, you're half right about the lab part. That heavenly glow is often courtesy of a little something called titanium dioxide. If that name sounds familiar, it's probably because you've seen it on the back of a sunscreen bottle or a can of white paint. It's an incredibly effective whitening pigment, used to make everything from your walls to your pasty, sun-deprived legs look brighter. And, as it turns out, it does the same thing for your food. It scatters light, creating an illusion of creamy, opaque perfection. It's the industrial-grade concealer for your salad dressing. Food companies use it in things like skim milk to make it look less like sad, watery sky juice. It's in coffee creamers, candy coatings, and even some chewing gums. The argument is that it's just a mineral, and we eat it in such small amounts that it's totally fine. But there's something deeply unsettling about knowing the same chemical compound responsible for your bathroom's semi-gloss finish is also giving your low-fat dessert its signature appeal. Essentially, you're eating a pigment designed to make things look clean and pure, which is a fantastic metaphor for the entire health food industry. Your insides are being painted a lovely shade of eggshell, one healthy snack at a time. Number 8. Bug varnish. You pick up a shiny red apple. It's gleaming under the fluorescent lights of the grocery store, looking like it was just plucked from a tree in a Disney movie. You take it home, give it a quick rinse, and take a satisfying crunch. You're eating healthy, you're Snow White, but without the questionable relationship with 7 tiny minors. Except that beautiful mirror-like sheen isn't nature's handiwork. It's a secretion from an insect. Welcome to the world of shellac. No, not the nail polish, though they're related. Food-grade shellac, sometimes called confectioner's glaze, is made from the resinous secretions of the female lac bug, native to Thailand and India. Workers scrape this bug goo off of tree branches, process it, and turn it into an edible varnish. Why? Because we, as a species, are apparently magpies who are only attracted to shiny food. That glossy coating on your jelly beans, your candy corn, and even some vitamins? That's bug resin. The coating that keeps apples from losing moisture and looking like sad, shriveled apple heads on their long journey to the store? Often, bug resin. It seals in freshness and makes the product look 10 times more appealing than its dull, unlacquered cousin. So you're essentially eating a product made from the carefully harvested bodily fluids of thousands of tiny insects, all in the name of aesthetics. It's like putting a clear coat on your fruit to protect it from the elements. And to be fair, it works. But it does reframe that old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But only if you're cool with eating a thin layer of bug spit. Number 7. Fish bladders. Picture this. You've had a long week. You decide to unwind with a nice, crisp pint of beer or a sophisticated glass of white wine. You're an adult. You're refined. You're sipping on a beverage that was likely filtered through the dried swim bladders of a fish. Let me introduce you to isinglass. It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, a mystical substance forged by elves. The reality is far more aquatic and gross. Isinglass is a form of collagen derived from the swim bladders of fish, primarily sturgeon. For centuries, brewers and winemakers have used it as a fining agent. They drop this powdered fish organ into a giant vat of booze, and it works like a magnet for all the leftover yeast particles and other hazy bits you don't want floating in your drink. The isinglass clumps together with this sediment, forming a gross, yeasty blob that sinks to the bottom of the tank, leaving the liquid above it crystal clear. The final product is then siphoned off, and very little of the actual fish bladder makes it into the final bottle. Very little, but not zero. This is why many beers and wines aren't considered vegan. They've been intimately acquainted with fish guts. So while you're enjoying that light, refreshing Pilsner and feeling good about your choice over a sugary soda, remember the unsung hero of its clarity, a dead fish's internal flotation device. It's the circle of life, except it ends with you getting tipsy at brunch. Number 6. Invisible fungus juice. You're eating a bowl of cornflakes, or maybe some peanut butter on toast. It's whole grain, it's full of protein, it's good for you. But lurking within that seemingly innocent food, there might be a silent, invisible freeloader that's far more sinister than a few extra calories. I'm talking about mycotoxins. Myco means fungus, and toxin means, well, toxin. These are poisonous compounds produced by certain types of mold that grow on crops like corn, grains, nuts, and coffee beans. And let me be clear, this isn't the kind of mold you can just scrape off your bread. This is a microscopic infiltrator that can contaminate crops in the field or in storage, and it's completely invisible to the naked eye. When you eat food contaminated with mycotoxins, you're basically ingesting the chemical warfare agents of the fungus world. Some, like aflatoxin, are potent carcinogens and are among the most poisonous naturally occurring substances on Earth. They can cause liver damage, suppress your immune system, and generally be a nightmare for your insides. Now, before you throw out everything in your pantry, regulatory bodies like the FDA have strict limits on the allowable levels of mycotoxins in food. They do their best to keep the really dangerous stuff off your plate, but trace amounts are almost unavoidable. It's a constant battle between agriculture and a very stubborn, very toxic fungus. So your heart-healthy oatmeal is probably fine. It just might contain the faint, ghostly whisper of a fungal curse. Number 5. The legal bug limit. Everyone knows the joke about the fly in the soup. But what if I told you that, by law, there's an acceptable number of fly fragments allowed in your soup before it even leaves the factory? The Food and Drug Administration has a handy little document called the Defect Levels Handbook, which is the most terrifying and hilarious government publication you'll ever read. It's a detailed guide to how much filth is legally permitted in your food. Let's take a look. That 16-ounce box of pasta in your cupboard? It's allowed to contain an average of 225 insect fragments. That's legs, wings, antennae, the whole six-legged confetti. Your morning coffee? The green beans can have up to 10% of their count be insect-infested or insect-damaged. The ground cinnamon you sprinkle on your oatmeal can have up to 400 insect fragments per 50 grams. This isn't because food producers are lazy, slovenly goblins. It's because farming is a messy business that happens outdoors, where bugs live. It is physically and economically impossible to harvest, transport, and process tons of raw agricultural product without getting a few critters in the mix. So the FDA sets a limit. Below the limit, it's considered an unavoidable natural defect. Above the limit, it's a public health problem. So, when you're eating that tomato sauce, and the rules say it's fine to have 1 fly egg per 100 grams, just think of it as extra, unplanned protein. Your food isn't dirty. It's just seasoned with the ghosts of 1,000 tiny arthropods. Number 4. A dash of rodent. If the insect fragments didn't faze you, let's up the ante from 6 legs to 4. The same FDA handbook that gives a green light to a bug parts per million quota also has a special section for our furry, squeaking friends. That's right, we're talking about rodent filth. According to the official guidelines, a 16-ounce jar of peanut butter, the wholesome cornerstone of childhood lunches, is legally allowed to contain an average of 1 rodent hair. Just 1, per 100 grams, that is. A standard jar is about 454 grams, so you do the math. Your PB&J might be a peanut, butter, and jelly sandwich, and it's not just hair. The handbook also specifies limits for rodent excreta pellets in things like wheat and cocoa beans. Again, this is a grim reality of large-scale food production. Warehouses are big, farms are even bigger, and where there is a massive supply of food, there will be mice and rats, treating your future dinner like an all-you-can-eat buffet. They scurry, they shed, they do other things, and tiny microscopic bits of them end up in the final product. The system is designed to keep this to an absolute minimum, but the minimum is not 0. So the next time you're making a protein shake with a scoop of chocolate whey powder, just know that the FDA is cool with it containing a few microscopic fragments of a rat's worst day. It's not an ingredient, it's a feature of the system. a furry, disgusting feature. Number 3. Recycled meat slurry. You're at the supermarket trying to buy ground beef for tacos. You see the 90% lean stuff and think, perfect, a healthier option. You're avoiding fat, making a responsible choice. But a portion of that lean beef might be a product with one of the most unappetizing nicknames in food history: pink slime. The industry prefers the term lean, finely textured beef, which sounds much more palatable. But the process is what it is. It starts with beef trimmings, the fatty bits, connective tissue, and scraps left over after the prime cuts are removed. These scraps are heated to liquefy the fat, then spun in a centrifuge at high speed to separate the meat from the melted fat. What's left is a pink paste-like substance. Because this process exposes the meat to a lot of potential bacteria, it's then treated with a puff of ammonium hydroxide gas to kill off pathogens like E. coli and salmonella. This resulting meat slurry is then mixed back into regular ground beef to lower the overall fat content, and more importantly, to lower the cost. It's an ingenious, if slightly horrifying, feat of industrial efficiency. They're salvaging every last edible scrap and turning it into something sellable. While it's been deemed safe to eat, the whole concept is just unsettling. It's the hot dog of the ground beef world, but with a better PR team. You wanted lean, and you got it. They just didn't advertise that it was achieved by putting meat scraps in a giant, super-fast washing machine and spritzing them with ammonia-based air freshener. Number 2. Human hair bread. All right, take a deep breath. We've had bugs, rodents, and industrial sludge. Now we're getting personal. Really personal. You know that soft, fluffy texture of mass-produced bread and bagels? That delightful chewiness that makes a store-bought pastry so satisfying? Well, sometimes the secret ingredient is human hair. I'm talking about an amino acid called L-cysteine. It's used as a dough conditioner, which means it speeds up the industrial mixing process and adds softness and elasticity to the final product. It makes the dough more manageable for machines and gives you that perfect pillowy texture. And one of the most abundant, cheapest sources of L-cysteine on the planet is human hair. The hair is gathered from the floors of barbershops and hair salons, primarily in China, and then dissolved in a vat of acid to extract the amino acid. It's then purified and sold as a food additive. Duck feathers are another common source, which is only marginally less horrifying. Now, to be fair, many manufacturers in the US and Europe have shifted to synthetic or microbial-based L-cysteine due to the massive ick factor. But it's not banned, and the hair-derived version is still widely used in other parts of the world. Because it's just a synthesized amino acid by the end of the process, it's considered chemically pure and safe. But the journey it took from someone's head, to a factory floor, to a chemical bath, and into your donut is a story that could ruin breakfast forever. It gives a whole new meaning to the term made with loving hands and their hair. Number 1. Beaver butt juice. Imagine you're enjoying a delicious vanilla-flavored yogurt, or maybe a scoop of raspberry ice cream. You're savoring that rich, complex, fruity flavor and thinking, nature is amazing. And you're right. Nature is amazing because that flavor you're tasting might have come from the anal glands of a beaver. This is not a joke. For centuries, the food and perfume industries have used a substance called castoreum. It's a secretion that comes from the castor sacs of beavers, which are located right between the pelvis and the base of the tail, right next to the anus. Beavers use this gooey brown substance to mark their territory, and it has a surprisingly pleasant, musky, vanilla-like scent. This is because their diet consists of bark and leaves, which leads to this unique chemical compound. For a long time, castoreum was listed on ingredient labels simply as natural flavoring, and technically it is. It's not a synthetic chemical made in a lab. It's harvested directly from a beaver's rear end. The process involves trapping and killing the beavers to extract the glands, which makes it incredibly expensive and rare today. Most vanilla flavoring is now synthetic or derived from vanilla beans. However, it is still FDA approved for use in food, and because it falls under the umbrella of natural flavoring, companies don't have to disclose its beaver butt-based origins. While its use in food is now minimal due to the cost, the fact remains that for decades, people were unknowingly enjoying a flavor enhancer that came from the business end of a large, semi-aquatic rodent. It is the absolute pinnacle of things you would never ever guess you were eating. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.